why there was no problem during the Duterte administration in closed doors.
But why is there a problem now?
Yes, Mr. President.
Why is there a problem?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Mr.
No
President.
problem even now. We had a template. But anyway,
Mr.
we
President-
can discuss it on Monday.
Mr. President.
Senator Cayenato.
Superpowers have different rules. You know,
That's why we need a rules-based solution to the
yes,
West Philippines.
yes, and that's why we need it. But in the meantime,
Paalis na.
if magkagera yung superpowers at ubos na lahat ng Pilipino, wala na yung sinasabi nating rule-based. Rule-based pero burado lahat ng Pilipino.
Ian,
At yun ang mga kabayan, naging matindi nga ang sagutan ni Senator Risa Hontiveros at ni Senator Peter Cayetano kaugnay nga sa usapin sa West Philippine Sea. Halos nagkakasapawan na nga sa mikropono itong dalawang senador na to at ayaw ngang magpatalo kung sino ang tama at kung sino ang mali. Dahil nga pinipilit nga ni Risa Hontiveros na gumawa ng isang resolusyon para ipasa sa United Nations na mariing kinutulan ni Senator Cayetano dahil hindi pa nga nakukuha ang side ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos patungkol nga dito. Ngunit imbis na gumitna itong si Senator ZUBIRI ay tinabaga kinampihan pa nito si Risa Hontiveros at sinabing kailangan nga daw ng resolusyon ng Senado kaugnay nga daw sa pambubuli ng bansang China sa ating bansa. Ngunit mariin nga rin itong tinutulan ni Senator Cayetano at sinabing kukunin muna dapat ang panig ng Pangulo bilang pagbigay galang nga sa nakapwesto na binoto nga ng majority ng mga Pilipino. At dagdag pa nga ni Senator Cayetano bago siya umalis ng plenaryo, sasabihin nga niya daw yung dahilan kung bakit naging maayos ang usapin ng West Philippine Sea noong panahon ni Pangulong Duterte sa susunod na executive meeting. Ngunit tinawanan lamang siya ni ZUBIRI at ni Risa Hontiveros. Kaya naman napabalik sa mikropono itong si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano na para bang nabatrip at sinoblak nga niya ang dalawa na sinasabing ang mga bansang superpowers ay may sarili ring rules. At paano na lang kung magkagera, aanhin na nga lang daw itong arbitral ruling kung patay na ang mga Pilipino. Dito nga tila ba nahimasmasan ang dalawang senador at sabay alis nga ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. Sa tingin nyo mga kabayan, dapat lamang ba na nasopla si ZUBIRI at si Risa Hontiveros at di nga nakabawi kay Senator Cayetano dahil biglang umalis na nga ito sa Senado? I-comment nyo nga sa mga kabayan at huwag nyo nga kalimutang i-hit ang like at subscribe button para updated ka sa mga uploads ko araw-araw. Kabayan, panoorin natin ang kabuuan ng video ito.
Sir President, I'll yield, and as you said, we can discuss it on Monday. Let me just agree. We agree on the outrage. We don't agree that it is the UN General Assembly which is the right way. And with the Ayungin shawl, I can share with you why there was no problem during the Duterte administration in closed doors.
but why is there a problem now?
Yes, Mr. President.
Why is there a problem?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Mr.
No
President.
problem even now. We had a template. But anyway,
Mr.
we
President-
can discuss it on Monday.
Mr. President.
Senator Cayenato.
Superpowers have different rules. You know,
That's why we need a rules-based solution to the
yes,
West Philippines.
yes, and that's why we need it. But in the meantime,
Paalis na.
if magkagera yung superpowers at ubos na lahat ng Pilipino, wala na yung sinasabi nating rule-based. Rule-based pero burado lahat ng Pilipino.
Me and Senator Bato will invite you to Mindanao. You can all move there to Mindanao with us. Okay, please proceed, Senator Lauren Legarda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to reiterate that all of us, I am certain, agree with the heart and soul and almost every word of the proposed resolution of our Deputy Minority Leader. And we thank you for authoring this resolution. Now, I'm also in agreement with the former Secretary of Foreign Affairs that there are indeed various strategies in expressing our outrage. And for me, one of those that should be exercised by the DFA instantly should be the information, education, communications. In fact, our victory in the arbitral ruling should be part of our curriculum, not just in state universities and colleges and private universities, but as early as DepEd, di ba? Sa DepEd schools, we
Yes,
should
Mr. President.
teach all of this as part of our history in our educational institutions and even in media, our victory in the 2016 arbitral ruling. There should be a YouTube channel, there should be a Facebook page dedicated to this, there should be all online platforms that would discuss and just appreciate the victory that we had more than 7 years ago. But having already won such a landmark favorable arbitral ruling, I believe that there are perhaps many strategies, one of which you mentioned in your proposed resolution, which is to bring it to the United Nations General Assembly. So, my question is, may I, Madam Presiding Officer, nice to see you there, know the process of assuming the DFA will agree to the proposed resolution and assuming the proposed resolution is adopted by the Senate. May this representation be enlightened on the proposal for a resolution in the UNGA? And we all realize the UN, GA, is a political body, and whatever resolutions will be proposed, assuming it will be adopted not just by majority but 2/3 vote, is non-binding, right? It is non-legally binding. So
Yes,
may
Madam
we know what would be the process of the resolution in the United Nations General Assembly? And my second question would be, there are 5 permanent members of the Security Council, and China is one of the 5. May I know, insofar as the Security Council is concerned, and insofar as the General Assembly of the 193 nations is concerned, how do we balance this? Can a veto of China as a permanent member of the UN stall the pendency of our proposed resolution or the non-inclusion in the agenda? So very basic questions so that we see the way forward, Madam Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Madam President and the good gentlewoman from Antique. Before I answer the question about the prospective process of such a resolution filed by the Philippine government, just for the record, Madam President, I do support the information campaign wholeheartedly and will also support, it was mentioned earlier, the Maritime Zones Bill authored by Her Honor. I also filed my own version of the bill. So these are possibly companion measures to our endeavor to really secure the future of the Philippines. Were to act favorably on our resolution, to file such a resolution in the UN General Assembly, it would be a pretty straightforward process, perhaps similar to here in the Senate. And the good gentlewoman from Antique is right. If and when such a resolution is filed by the Philippine government in the UN General Assembly, after similar debate or interpellation, such a resolution would usually require a simple majority, or 50 votes, or 50% of all votes plus 1 to pass or to be carried, meaning it would evolve from a resolution of the Philippine Senate expressing our sense to something that hopefully may be acted upon favorably by the DFA on behalf of our government. It would evolve, if passed by this simple majority, into an expression of the sense of the UN General Assembly or of the community of nations assembled in the UN that China must comply with and abide by and cease her harassment of the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. However, Madam President and good gentlewoman from Antique, if the UN General Assembly determines that the issue is an important question, then by a simple majority vote, the UN General Assembly could decide that then a two-thirds majority is required. And in the history of the UN General Assembly, an important question are such that deal significantly with the maintenance of international peace and security, admission of new members to the UN, suspension of the rights and privileges of membership, the expulsion of members, operation of the trusteeship system, or budgetary questions.
Thank you for that, Madam President. Since this would clearly fall under international peace, order, and security, does Your Honor believe that perhaps not just a majority vote, but a two-thirds vote in the General Assembly would be needed?
It may be not needed, Madam President, a good gentlewoman from Antique, but it's in the realm of possibility that the UNGA would vote by simple majority vote that we need to consider this an important question, this resolution of the Philippine government. Therefore, a two-thirds majority would be required to pass it. And I failed to mention earlier the other part of the first question of the good gentlewoman from Antique, since yes, the members of the Security Council are of course also members of the UN General Assembly, then but I have to study this further, Madam good gentlewoman, Mr. President, and get back to you on it. It would be possible that if they transfer the question to the Security Council, that a veto might be a threat. But that's thinking 2 steps or 3 steps ahead. As of the moment, I would say it is reasonable to presume na maganda ang tsansa ng Pilipinas makatanggap ng malawak na suporta sa mayorya o kahit two-thirds ng mga miyembro ng UN, kasi parami ng parami yung individual nations at saka mga regional formations made up of numbers of nations na sumusuporta na sa ating Hague ruling and who are also themselves coastal nations. For the record, Mr. President, good gentleman from Antique, there are around 198 UN members at sa mga ito, 145 are littoral states o yung mga states na may coastline tulad po natin. So, the odds may yet be in our favor dahil ang pagtagumpay ng isang resolusyon ng Philippine government of this nature ay sa interes o sa bentahe, sa advantage, hindi lamang ng Pilipinas, kundi sa mga katulad na bansa who are in the majority in the membership of the UN General Assembly, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. Does it have any bearing, Mr. President, that China is one of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, and that, of course, this would concern their expansionist claims and being a permanent member of the SC, part of the UNGA, and would they have the power or the influence to stall or prevent us from filing a resolution? Is there any way that where a Philippine resolution may have been drafted, ready for filing, is there any process where they can lobby for the non-inclusion in the agenda? Just so that we have an understanding of the process. We drafted it in the Philippines. The Philippine mission in New York would have a copy. The representative of the Philippines in the UN mission will go to session. How is the process? It's filed. Is there any member of the United Nations, even assuming it's a permanent member of the Security Council, can any member of the SC, has it ever happened, lobbied or did some legal proceeding to not include a resolution in the agenda?
Well, again, Mr. President, good gentlewoman from Antique, posibleng mayroong mga ganyang behind-the-scenes lobbying sa loob ng Security Council or kahit sa buong UN General Assembly. Nabanggit ko po kanina sa sponsorship speech na dun sa isang earlier resolution tungkol sa karapatan at pagdepensa sa mga human rights defenders, China actually lobbied powerfully in the UN General Assembly, subalit nanalo pa rin yung resolusyong iyon. Also, Mr. President, good gentlewoman from Antique, there are also many moments that the UN General Assembly is even more powerful than the UN Security Council. Yung nabanggit ko rin pong Nicaragua resolution against the United States, it was actually vetoed 5 times sa UN Security Council. Kaya nga dinala siya sa UN General Assembly, where finally, beyond just that limited number na mga miyembro ng UN Security Council, pinagbotohan ng 198 members ng UN General Assembly, and justice was upheld for Nicaragua, na uphold na dapat talaga ma-enforce yung ruling ng International Court of Justice. Baka hindi aabot sa Security Council itong resolution natin. Malay ba natin, if the 145 littoral states, at least of the 198 UN member nations sa General Assembly pa lamang, ay susuportahan at i-adopt yung ating resolution, then I think it would be beyond the reach of the Security Council.
Thank you for that information. May I know what value would a resolution be, considering that the UN, assuming it is passed, is a political body, it's not legally binding, we cannot legally compel any country mentioned in the resolution, in this case China, to undertake the desired action, and we had won the arbitral ruling. Will it not diminish the victory of 2016 if there is a possibility that this will be reversed or not attained in the UNGA?
Well, no, Mr. President, good gentlewoman from Antique, yan siguro yung beauty ng arbitral ruling sa The Hague. Kumbaga, it stands for all time. It cannot be diminished, let alone reversed by another body, baka lamang ng The Hague mismo. Pero it is at this moment and in the past 7 years, it is inviolate as a ruling of an international tribunal. And we are seeking to reinforce that in terms of yung actual implementation on the ground. Dahil hanggang sa ngayon, hindi talaga kinikilala ng China yung ruling na iyon. Kaya't ayan, tuloy-tuloy yung ganyang mga insidente sa West Philippine Sea, sa exclusive economic zone natin na pinag-uusapan natin mula nung nagsimula yung ating interpellation. Therefore, our victory in The Hague stands. It stands for all time. Historic siya. Sinabi noon nung nanalo tayo doon, it awarded the single largest territory of the global commons sa ocean, hindi lang sa ating mga Pilipino, pero sa buong sangkatauhan daw, to all of humankind. And we are merely seeking, without risk of diminishing its import, seeking to reinforce and to give the force of a UNGA resolution adoption yung naaani natin ngayon. Tuloy-tuloy at padagdag na suporta ng mga individual na bansa, most if not all of them members of the UN and regional formations. For example, the EU, NATO itself and such, Mr. President.